You know you react to wheat, and you've probably been told it's one of three things: celiac disease, wheat allergy, or non-celiac gluten sensitivity. Well, there are at least two major mechanisms beyond gluten sensitivity that most people, even most doctors, aren't aware of. And knowing which one you actually have could change what exactly you need to avoid. Now, for wheat allergy or celiac disease, tests are available, and if you got a clear answer there, I doubt you'd be here. So you probably couldn't get tested yet, or if you did, results were negative or inconclusive, putting you in that third box, where less informed people might even think you're just imagining it. Allergy to wheat is recognized when it presents with a clear, immediate reaction with positive allergy tests. There's also baker's asthma or rhinitis due to wheat as an inhalant and contact dermatitis. But some people who don't present with classic allergy symptoms and who test negative and therefore are either dismissed or classed as having merely a sensitivity may actually be allergic. This is the realm of atypical allergies. There are multiple ways allergies can be hidden, even when IgE is involved, the antibody behind classic allergy reactions. How? Wheat has a higher chance of being a cryptic allergy. This is when the IgE-mediated allergy doesn't show up on tests. The gold standard of whether someone actually has an allergy is a double-blind, placebo-controlled food challenge where neither the patient nor the researchers know whether the food contains the allergen or not. But among adults confirmed to have wheat allergy in this way, skin prick testing was negative in 54% of them. Specific IgE blood test was more sensitive, but 15% were still negative. One possibility is that some of the components of wheat that cause allergies don't reveal themselves until they're partially digested, like they would in the intestines. And if you present with less typical symptoms, you will slip through the cracks. Some people have main symptoms that are not usually seen as allergic but actually are, like migraines. And some people have an unusually high threshold level and won't react until they have had almost a full serving. Another frequent possibility is having local IgE reactions to wheat. So again, it won't show up in skin or blood testing, but you do have these reactions, say only in your intestines. According to some studies, this may be what is going on for the majority of patients with irritable bowel syndrome. Others don't react unless there are other factors like exercise or NSAIDs that boost the reaction. Exercise or aspirin-induced anaphylaxis and urticaria occur more frequently with wheat allergies. All of these, despite being an actual IgE-mediated allergy, may not show up as such with standard allergy testing. And then there are non-IgE-mediated allergies, which of course won't show up on tests since IgE, the only one we're testing for, isn't involved. Non-IgE-mediated allergies typically show delayed or chronic reactions involving eosinophils, T cells, and other mechanisms that we still don't know much about. The ones that have been described so far mainly involve the gastrointestinal tract. Most well known for wheat are eosinophilic esophagitis and eosinophilic gastritis, both characterized by chronic inflammation. Symptoms can resemble GERD, with difficulty swallowing, food impaction, vomiting, bloating, and abdominal pain. It's also possible to have mixed IgE and non-IgE allergies. Atopic dermatitis and eosinophilic esophagitis are usually mixed mechanisms, as is also the case for atypical FPIs. And a special case of non-IgE mediated allergy that you may have heard of is, drumroll, celiac disease. What? I thought it was an autoimmune disease? Yes, technically it's a partial autoimmune disease since it requires an external trigger, gluten, and it's also a non-IgE mediated allergy to gluten. In celiac disease, gluten triggers the destruction of the villi lining the small intestines that help absorb nutrients. This can, of course, cause all sorts of gastrointestinal symptoms, but surprisingly, it's much more common to have symptoms elsewhere: the skin, brain, joints, even fertility. The list is long. Children may show growth problems, dental enamel damage, neurological symptoms, and untreated, there's a greater chance to develop cancer. This leaves us with non-celiac gluten sensitivity, the new kid on the block. Hundreds of symptoms have been associated with this, from GI issues to psychiatric disorders. In fact, from symptoms alone, it's near impossible to distinguish between someone with celiac disease or non-celiac gluten sensitivity. We'll soon get to why both of these can have so many symptoms, as there's a common underlying cause. Previous studies on non-celiac gluten sensitivity found two groups of patients. One group that was sensitive to wheat only, and a 3 times larger group with multiple food sensitivities, all of whom also reacted to cow's milk, despite having negative skin prick testing for food allergies. While there was some overlap, the first group was similar to celiac disease patients and was believed to be at risk for its later development, and the second group to allergic patients in their clinical presentation. So for people who find relief after going gluten-free and then find themselves being frequently glutened, the culprit may in fact not be gluten. Yes, you should double check to see if there were hidden sources of gluten, but if you can't seem to find any, there's a good chance you're actually uncovering your other sensitivities. At this point, you may realize some people thought to have non-celiac gluten sensitivity actually have atypical allergies, since they would have had negative testing for wheat allergy. In fact, researchers have hypothesized that the majority of people with non-celiac gluten sensitivity may be non-IgE mediated allergy. Many have a history of atopy and evidence of basophil and eosinophil activation. These are the immune cells involved in the late stage of allergic reactions. And then there's another mechanism that researchers recently shed light on: ATI sensitivity. ATI, or Amylase Trypsin Inhibitors, are a family of at least 11 related proteins, and they happen to be most abundant in gluten-containing grains. When you eat ATIs, they cause only mild inflammation in the gut itself, barely detectable. But in the surrounding lymph nodes, the inflammation is many times stronger. And when T cells from all the other organs travel through these lymph nodes, this inflammation makes them more aggressive when they return to those organs. This explains how wheat-related symptoms are described in every possible system of the body and how it can worsen any pre-existing chronic inflammatory disease. The majority of affected patients have complaints and symptoms outside the gastrointestinal tract and basically show a worsening of conditions as diverse as chronic inflammatory bowel disease, multiple sclerosis, or rheumatic disorders, including connective tissue diseases like scleroderma. ATI sensitivity may play a role in initiating both celiac disease and various atypical allergies. And it may also be why the symptoms of celiac disease and non-celiac gluten sensitivity are nearly identical. Understanding ATI sensitivity, suddenly wheat's connection to all kinds of chronic illnesses makes sense. And even if the instigating molecule is different, this explains how what starts in the gut does not stay there but can show up anywhere in the body. To summarize, reactions to wheat, usually divided as celiac disease, wheat allergy, and non-celiac wheat sensitivity, may have to be revised to celiac disease, wheat allergy, atypical allergies, and ATI sensitivity. And who knows, there may be other sensitivities to other problematic components in wheat yet to be discovered. It's honestly impressive the many ways wheat problems hide. Except for classic allergy, it's all hidden. And what does this mean for you practically? Understanding more accurately what your problem is will help you manage it better. Beyond that, it changes what and how much you actually need to avoid. For ATI sensitivity, you can be less strict with your diet. Research suggests a 95% reduction in ATI should be sufficient and safe. This can be achieved just by avoiding all obvious sources of gluten, which is much easier to do. Compare that to celiac disease, where you would have to strictly avoid all gluten grains for life. The catch is that in many cases, you may not know for sure which you have, atypical wheat allergy or ATI sensitivity. If you have an atypical allergy to wheat, you might be okay with barley and rye, which you would have had to avoid if you thought you had gluten sensitivity. An exception to this is if you have exercise or other cofactor-induced allergies, since proteins in rye and barley can cross-react in that case. Classic wheat allergy, you need to avoid wheat at your tolerance level, which may be extremely strict or not so much, and it's recommended to periodically test for tolerance since you might outgrow the allergy. Check out the descriptions below if you'd like to see my references and go deeper than I could present in a video. Thanks for learning with me today, and I'll see you in the next.